committed in the area during the apartheid era. They include killing of 69 people and the wounding of 180 others in a shooting incident involving police and army in March 1960 in what is today known as the Sharpeville Massacre. The department spokesperson Cynthia Chaka explains.
This milestone returns the country to a place that symbolizes both the pain of apartheid and the moral resolve that shaped the democratic transition. Sharpeville is central to the nation's constitutional journey. In 1960, peaceful protesters who rejected the pass laws faced deadly force, exposing to the world the cruelty of a system built on racial oppression. In 1996, President Nelson Mandela chose this very community for the signing of the democratic constitution, cementing Sharpeville as a site of remembrance, accountability, and national renewal.
Lastly, member states of Europe's main human rights body, the Council of Europe, will meet today for talks which could overhaul the way human rights law treats migration. They will be considering whether law can be interpreted to make it easier to target the people smugglers. The BBC's Dominic Kashaini. We do apologize for not being able to play the sound there. For any news stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us at +27 11 714 4459. Channel Africa News, I am Oneli Tsinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective. This is Africa Update, your pulse to the continent. Stories shaping nations and voices driving change. Stay informed, stay connected, right here on Channel Africa, the African Perspective.
Coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on DSTV's audio bouquet channel 802, OpenView channel 628 and on www.channelafrica.co.za as well as on the SABC Plus app available on the Apple and Google Play stores. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 406 9126 #Africa Update. Coming up in the Sawa, M23 rebels in the Democratic Republic of Congo seize another town in the east of the country. And today marks International Human Rights Day. Today on #Africa Update, ask as the world marks International Human Rights Day, what message do you want to give governments? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 406 9126 #Africa Update Us. It is 12:07 Central African time and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. M23 armed forces have taken control of Uvira in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo as gunfire rang out, prompting residents to flee with their belongings. The surge in violence comes days after a peace deal was signed in the United States between Rwanda and the DRC. It aimed at ending decades of conflict in the Eastern Congo. The United Nations says 200,000 people have fled their homes, with dozens killed and wounded from the escalating clashes in recent days. And for more on this, we are joined on the line by Patrice Madjondo Mwamba, a former presidential candidate from the DRC. Patrice, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon. How are you doing, ma'am?
I'm very well, thanks, Patrice. And it's what is your view? It's very interesting to see all these peace deals that are being signed by the DRC and Rwanda together. In one instance, in the Qatar peace deal, the M23 rebel had a representative there, but what is your view on the latest clashes and just going back into looking at these peace deals that are signed, whether it's the US or it's in Qatar, that are just falling through the cracks and not holding?
Absolutely. But first of all, I must say that two things. We mostly have to be very grateful that Qatar and, of course, the United States of America have decided to help with the peace dialogues and, of course, bringing the DRC and Rwanda to the table in terms of making the deals that actually are very important in order for us to end this war. Ultimately, we do understand today that this war has been highly supported by international multinational that actually gain out of the natural resources that come from the DRC. And I do believe it's very important for the neighboring countries of the DRC to work alongside with the DRC in order for us to find a cohesive result that's going to be profitable to our beloved citizen in each individual countries. That's one. So again, I'm very grateful for the leadership of the Kingdom of Qatar and, of course, the United States of America in this deal. But now, talking about the peace deal on itself. So as you probably know, there is different layer in this deal. There is an economical deal. There is, of course, a diplomatic deal. And I do believe what's missing here, and this is what I've been saying for the longest, we need to have an inclusive dialogue amongst Congolese, because ultimately the issue must be fixed first at home amongst us. So I do believe that His Excellency the President of the DRC, Felix Antoine Tshisekedi, I do believe that the opposition party and platform has to be a part of this dialogue. And I also do believe that M23 also have to be a part of this, because they are revendicating some things that we as Congolese together have to sit to the table and trying to see how we can cohesively together find a way forward. And as long as we sign this deal, the economical deal, which is great for the people and, of course, for the region. Of course, we sign the diplomatic deal, which is great for the region and, of course, the continent. But again, to me, the missing piece here is the inclusive dialogue amongst Congolese. And I think this is what needs to come next here.
Do you think this is the reason why, previous peace agreements have failed, and this change is needed to be more inclusive?
Absolutely, ma'am. I do believe strongly that one of the reasons why we have not succeeded in over 25 years in this issue is the fact that many decisions have been taken without involving actually the principles. In terms of what I mean principle, I mean like Congolese citizen and, of course, the neighbor countries. We did start with the neighbors with this peace deal between Rwanda and Congo, and I totally encourage for the region to take example of that. But again, I need to insist that it's imperative to have the inclusive dialogue amongst Congolese first and foremost.
Now, Patrice, I'm sure you are aware that we do have the political analyst Didier Bayeye, who is on the line with us as well. And I just want to speak to Didier. Didier, good afternoon. Thank you for making time for us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lulu. Always a pleasure being on your show. Hope you are doing well, and greetings to the listeners.
Well, thank you so much. I'm doing very well. And Patrice Majondo Mwamba is also on the line with us. And we're just having a discussion about this peace deal that was signed in the U.S. a couple of days ago. And already, just days after the peace deal, there were clashes and people fleeing their homes after gunfire had rung in Uvira, in that part of the DRC. How would you characterize the current balance of power between the DRC government and the M23?
Well, talking of peace agreement, the signing of peace agreement between the DRC and Rwanda government, and talking of M23 on the ground, well, these are issues, first of all, we need to separate. In the US, we have not seen the M23 signing the peace agreement. We have seen Rwanda signing peace agreement. Now, based on many reports, including the UN report in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo, it is documented beyond any reasonable doubt that Rwandan forces is behind M23. So the Kinshasa government believes that should Rwanda withdraw its troops from the Democratic Republic of Congo, M23 will not have any power or any means to keep fighting. This is why, in the past, President Felix Tshisekedi of the Democratic Republic of Congo mentioned that he doesn't want dialogue or to negotiate with the puppet, treating the M23 as the puppet, but he wanted to speak to their master, whom he was referring to as the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame. So knowing that if only Rwanda can withdraw its forces out of the borders, out of the territorial, integrity of the territory of the Democratic Republic of Congo, then the M23 will not have any means to fight. Now, after signing, there seemed to be an escalation of fight. First of all, as we kept talking about this issue and then following very, very closely, I have to say that this war never finished. It never stopped, even before the signing. That is one. Secondly, analyzing the whole situation, this sounds like nothing else but the pure sabotage of the peace agreement, the peace deal which has been signed in the United States of America. Why is sabotage? Because M23, by making their demand that they need a dialogue, they need to be included on the dialogue, which the DRC government refused, that they're not going to sit, the president rather, say that is not going to sit on the table with M23 to negotiate with them. So that will not happen.
Didier, let me bring in Patrice now, just to touch on that, because it could be different ideas, but coming with a solution that will work for the country as the DRC. Now, Patrice, the strategy for restoring authority in the eastern provinces, especially areas currently under the control of the M23, what do you think is going to work? You've already mentioned the inclusion of the opposition party leaders and opposition parties in the DRC, as well as a dialogue. Take us through what your strategy would be, or what your ideas would be, in terms of bringing peace in that region.
Absolutely, thank you, Didier. It's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for your mark. Very pragmatic. I love that. But the truth of the fact is that we've tried everything. Okay, for the past 27, 28 years, we've tried everything. We've gone to Sun City twice. We've gone to so many places, and we've talked. We've done many things involving different parties, in terms of third party. We are involving the South African many times. We are involving today the Qataris and the American and so on and so forth. But the problem has never been foreigners, respectfully. The issue is at home. I mean, you speaking to someone like myself in my position. I've traveled the entire sub-region at least 4 times. I've met many of the decision makers in the sub-region. The problem is amongst us Congolese. And it's quite easy to blame others. It's easy to point fingers. It's easy to do many things. But we have to look of the reality. Let's be very, I love to say that, to be executive, you know. Let's be executive and make executive decisions. Very hard to make, but it's the truth and it's what's needed today. If we want to change the course, the trajectory in which we are involved currently, okay, we have to come to a sense of it's time for us to speak amongst us because we are mature enough. Africa is not the Africa of our grandparents. Okay, Africa is our Africa. We grew up overseas. We've gone to some of the best schools. We traveled the world. We know the difference between good and bad. So there is no reason in the world today why we should still speaking about things that are quite simple, you know, mathematically speaking, 1 + 1. Okay, we know the issue. The issue is with these people in the East. Okay, Rwanda, we know the purpose of Rwanda. We know the purpose of Burundi. And all of our 9 members, we know the impact the DRC have in each of the 9 countries that belong to the DRC. We know that. And vice versa, we also know what we gain from them. So why talk about things that we already know? Perhaps let's go into this other way. And you ask me what would be the steps? Very easy. Today, the steps for me, number 1 is for the DRC leadership, His Excellency the President, to call on his brothers and sisters to come to the table. We have to get there. We have to take away the landscape of having, foreign forces. You know, we talk about these foreign forces. We read so many report, but underground is a different ballgame. Underground, there is no report. Underground, daily, there is kids, daughters, wife, sisters, mom, dad, they are being dead, killed on a daily. As we talk today, people are dying. So for me, we have to really reshift our focus on us first before looking at solutions elsewhere.
Now, Didier, bringing you in, what does the government suspension of opposition parties suggest about political freedoms and democratic space, especially with what Patrice is saying with regards to bringing the citizens of the DRC together to find solutions for this crisis in the eastern part of the country?
Lulu, let me first start by saying the second part of your question, which transcends from what Patrice just said. When people hear about conversational dialogue, clearly they're thinking of it differently. The DRC in the past 20 years has had about 39, if I'm not mistaken, 39 dialogues. And then nothing good came out of it, except a pretentious peace. What we've also seen is that it's more about sharing of cake, not really the interest of the people, not really about the building the Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo. And this is true. One thing I agree with the president of the DRC is when he said that, yes, dialogues, I want dialogues, but these dialogues should be by the Congolese, with the Congolese. At this stage, it is not the case. More people are talking of dialogues, but in reality, they want political position. They want political power, political influence. They want some portion of minds to be given to them. So we cannot be falling over and over as a country into the very same many dialogues that have produced nothing. Well, what we have seen is that DRC as a country keep lagging behind in infrastructure, in economy, in development, yet 39 dialogues. So let's first start by getting the troublemakers out. Rwanda need to step out, need to draw its troops out of the DRC. If Congolese need dialogues, why is Rwanda stepping in? Is Rwanda the only neighbor?
Didier,
this is a big question mark that
Lulu.
Okay, Didier,
allow me one thing.
Patrice, I will allow you to wrap up. I'll give you 15 seconds. Didier, we're going to leave it there with you for today, and hopefully we'll be able to do this another time. Patrice, you've got 15 seconds just to wrap that up.
Thank you, Lulu. So, my dear Didier, my brother, it's very easy to be tough when we are talking from our beautiful garden, in a beautiful home in Kinshasa, in a very safe situation. I will invite you to turn around, go in the east, visit these refugee camp, look at our brothers and sisters, the way they live. I must tell you that you will now entertain any day of an extreme war in which the Eastern Congo has been ongoing for the past
So
over
killing
25
is
years.
an,
All right,
So
is,
in order,
is the right thing to do.
in order for us,
Killing its
in
own
order,
citizens
Patrice,
in
is
order
the
for
right
us to
thing to
stop
do.
it, we have to
Killing
sit.
its own citizens is the answer to what they want. That is the question. Is killing your own citizens the answer? Is that the answer to the problem?
So what do you do? Who
Is
has the
killing your
who?
own citizens
No,
the answer to the
nobody,
problem?
nobody has
Thank
the
you. You
exclusivity
cannot
to
answer
the.
this question,
I
Patrice.
can, and I am
Killing is
answering to
not
you.
a solution, and then nobody in
I
this
don't.
world
I do
can
not
condone
support. I do
such
not
behavior.
support any kind of
Dialogue,
war.
yes.
I don't support
Conversation,
any
yes.
war.
gentlemen,
Killing
Patrice,
Lulu,
of the
Patrice,
citizens,
Didier,
no.
Patrice, Didier,
That will not work.
gentlemen,
And that is not a solution. Sharing
Didier,
of the cake will not work.
Didier, we
It
are
you
will
know,
going
not
to
work.
have to leave it here
we
for
will
today.
be doomed to do the same
Gentlemen,
thing and get the
Thank
same
you, Lulu.
results.
Thank
you know what? It's
Thanks
a
for
very
the time.
difficult one. It's a very difficult one. I think we need more time for this. And I will ask
Yeah.
both of you to come back and join us. And we'll ask Tracy to organize something for us to have another conversation about this, because this is explosive and it's a very triggering one. And I can pick that up from both of you. But thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. Patrice, we appreciate your time. Didier also, and we will be chatting to you soon. That is Patrice Majondo Mwamba, a former presidential candidate from the DRC, and also political analyst Didier Bayeye, both joining us on the line. Well, it is 24 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa.
Es-tu préoccupé par quelque chose? Es-tu passionné par les questions qui comptent? As-tu une voix qui mérite d'être entendue? Eh bien, nous avons la plateforme parfaite pour toi. Téléphone-nous ou fais-nous un WhatsApp au +27 66 408 87 42 et nous te rappellerons. Sois dans la conversation.
Salut Channel Africa, ici Beno le diamant rouge et Bina l'export depuis le Cameroun, le pays des lions. Voilà.
Sois dans la conversation. Il ne s'agit pas seulement de parler, mais c'est ta chance d'exprimer ton point de vue, de partager tes opinions et de t'engager avec une communauté qui valorise ton avis. Suivez-nous sur les réseaux sociaux, visitez notre site www.channelafrica.co.za et préparez-vous à partager vos points de vue sur Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Continue with us on all our social media platforms as today the 2025 South African Reconciliation Barometer shows a country still committed to democracy but struggling with deep social challenges. Now, the survey was conducted a year into the government of national unity formed after the ANC lost its majority in the 2024 elections. The study also shows that trust in political parties and public institutions remains low. To discuss this further, we are joined on the line by Kate Lefko Everett, the author of the report. Kate, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you for having me, Lulu.
Now, Kate, what were some of the findings that came out of the study?
So the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation has been conducting the Reconciliation Barometer survey since 2003, and we have a really unique and interesting set of data over South Africa's period of political transition. This year, as you mentioned, we conducted our survey right at the point of 1 year of the GNU's first term in office, and what we did find is that the levels of distrust in government and lack of confidence in institutions that we found in 2023 unfortunately remain very high in 2025. However, I think this is a moment of opportunity, and the survey results do show a bit of patience and a kind of wait-and-see attitude towards the GNU, and it's an opportunity for real impact and change to happen.
Now, despite a lack of trust in political parties and public institutions, there were also signs of hope. What were those signs?
So, as you mentioned, yes, we did find high levels of distrust in national leadership, in key public institutions, and also across the four largest political parties in the country. However, we did find some interesting variation in attitudes towards some of the key policy and legislative issues that have been on the GNU agenda. So we found, for example, moderate majority support for national health insurance, for the national dialogue process, and even for the Land Expropriation Act. So it seems like the public is more willing to kind of engage on policy and legislative issues, and there's some diversity of opinion, whereas the distrust levels are more universal.
And regarding the Government of National Unity, what were the findings there?
So we asked questions about how South Africans view the Government of National Unity in terms of its effectiveness and the ability and willingness of the parties to work together. And it was a very even spread. About a third of South Africans had a high level of confidence across all of those questions. A third were neutral, and a third had low levels of confidence. So again, we've interpreted that as maybe not the most promising results that the GNU would have liked to see, but it's a bit of a wait and see kind of attitude. The jury is still out on the GNU, and again, there's an opportunity for delivery to happen and for those attitudes to shift in a more positive direction in the future.
And just in wrapping up, Kate, as South Africa moves towards the 2026 local government elections, what did the report highlight?
So the report looks back on what was quite a difficult time in the lead up to the 2024 elections. There was expectations of potential political instability. There was anxiety about what the election results would bring. So part of the purpose of the report this year was to emphasize that we don't want to see those conditions of anxiety and instability going into the 2026-27 local government elections. At the same time, again, we found pervasive distrust and some challenges in terms of the current mood and confidence in leadership. So it's an important time to kind of lay the foundations for peaceful and stable elections going forward.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. We are going to leave it there for today.
Thanks, Lulu.
That's Kate Lefko-Everett, author of the 2025 South African Reconciliation Barometer, joining us on the line. It is 12:29 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 406 9126 hashtag Africa Updates, and let us know which country you're in. Our news headlines up next.
SABC News headlines. The African perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. The Democratic Alliance Party in South Africa says Parliament's newly established Oversight Committee on the Presidency could become one of the strongest tools for holding the executive to account if it is used properly. The National Assembly approved the committee last week. Senior Gender Justice and International Law Fellow Wendy Isaacs says the African continent humanitarian crisis that the world has ever seen is due to conflict. Today, the world is observing International Human Rights Day. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says the US and Europe security guarantees would be needed for Ukraine to hold elections. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Tsinzi.
SABC News headlines. The African perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Football news this hour. Former Ivory Coast and Chelsea star Solomon Kalou believes this could be the year South Africa win the Africa Cup of Nations for the first time in nearly 30 years. Kalou says Morocco may be without Achraf Hakimi and Egypt's Mohamed Salah is not at his best, opening the door for South Africa. He also highlighted Algeria's strength and Nigeria's attacking form with Lukman, Iwobi and Chukwueze, but insists Bafana have what it takes to go all the way. And Zimbabwe President Emmerson Mnangagwa has donated $400,000 of his personal funds to support the Warriors during the Africa Cup of Nations campaign. Sports Minister Anselm Sanyate confirmed the contribution at the team send-off, saying the money will cover care and support throughout the tournament. In addressing players, government officials, business leaders and football stakeholders, Sanyate praised the president's consistent backing of the Warriors. Zimbabwe will depart with renewed confidence, aimed to make history by progressing beyond the group stage for the first time. Some more football news. Saudi Arabia says it will do whatever it can to sign unsettled Liverpool star Mohamed Salah in January. A source at the Kingdom's Public Investment Fund confirmed they are monitoring Salah's situation closely, with both PIF-backed clubs and Aramco's Al Qadisiyah showing interest. Salah, left out of Liverpool's Champions League squad against Inter Milan, admitted he felt thrown under the bus after being benched in the 3-3 draw with Leeds. In Western Province, Captain Leah Jones has expressed excitement at receiving her maiden call-up to the one-day international squad for the South Africa's Proteas women, having been named in Mandla Mashimbi's contingent to take on Ireland this month. The 23-year-old has been one of the impressive players on the domestic front and has been knocking on the national selector's door for a while. While Mashimbi said Jones has shown maturity in a game recently, the player herself says she is a bit overwhelmed by the call-up.
It's obviously really exciting, something I waited for a very long time. So getting the call was obviously a bit overwhelming, but I was really happy, still really happy, and really excited to get going and can't wait to at least get going.
Jones could make her international debut alongside domestic teammates Faye Turner-Cliff and Lara Goodall, who have all been recalled to the team. She says she looked to those two for guidance whenever needed.
I haven't really spoken to Faye and Laura about any of it. I think they were just really happy for me that I got it. And I think they were just excited that I was there, and just to be with them especially would be really cool. To be on a field with him, especially international games. Obviously played domestic cricket with him and a lot of it. But I think I will obviously have a few words with him when the time comes, how to handle a few things. So I'm really glad that they're at least in my corner.
For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Figurele Ngwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Conversations are happening, and Channel Africa is at the heart of them. We tell the African story with clarity, pride, and purpose, reaching audiences that matter to your brand. Partner with us and connect your business with listeners across borders in multiple languages and markets. For partnership opportunities, sponsorship, or sales, email us at partnership@channelafrica.co.za. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Good afternoon. And our top business story this hour, Nigeria's debt to the World Bank is expected to reach approximately $9.65 billion by December 2025, with nearly $8.4 billion in new loans secured since May 2023. The borrowing, initiated by President Bola Tinubu, involved $2.7 billion in loans for 4 major projects, primarily focusing on power sector recovery, renewable energy access, girls' education, and women's economic empowerment.
It would be fair we look at the entire debt portfolio of Nigeria. If you look at if you look at the past administration, the growth of debt, it was much higher than what we see now. But the speed of growth we've seen the past 2-3 years is partly attributed to the depreciation of the naira. Naira has lost about over 60% of its value. So in real term, yes, nominal term, the growth, the debt has grown speedily, but in real term, it is not, the difference is not really that much.
South Africa's construction sector is showing signs of recovery with a 0.1% increase in the third quarter of 2025, despite the overall economic growth being only 0.5%. The Afrimat Construction Index rose over 10%. The government launched its first infrastructure and development finance bond to enhance capital formation and expand the national infrastructure pipeline. Chief Economist and Director at Econometrics, Dr. Azar Jamin.
It appears as if it might be turning the tide, but you've got to bear in mind that it has been an extremely depressed sector. The level of investment in construction has fallen by more than anything else in the economy. The GDP of construction has been by far the weakest of any of the 10 sectors of the economy in the last decade.
The World Bank Group has called on the Malawi government to implement fiscal consolidation in both revenue and expenditure to restore macroeconomic stability. The appeal was made by World Bank Malawi country manager Firas Rad during the launch of the Malawi Public Finance Review report in Lilongwe. The report outlined several impediments to the country's economic development, presenting 8 key findings. The report highlights that exchange rate distortions and implicit subsidies are undermining public finances, while escalating wage and interest expenses, together with deteriorating fiscal governance, are contributing to increased government spending. Zambia has signed 3 memoranda of understanding with U.S. companies through the Zambia Development Agency, focusing on critical mineral processing, data sovereignty and investment promotion. The agreements include partnerships with Austin Elements, Lucid Circuit and Busara Advisors Incorporate. The collaboration aims to enhance Zambia-U.S. relations, particularly in securing critical mineral supply chains, with Zambia committing to responsible mining and sustainability standards in support of green energy technologies. Further afield, Amazon has announced plans to double its investment in India by 2030, spending a further $35 billion. It says the investment will create 1 million new jobs. The BBC's Arunodey Mukherjee reports.
Big tech US firms like Microsoft and Google have poured billions into India this year for AI advancement, ramping up infrastructure and data centers. India is still playing catch-up in the global AI race. The country's ambitions have faced numerous challenges, from semiconductor availability to skilled talent. Countries like China and the US have spent billions in research and development, critical funding that India has so far lacked, slowing its progress in becoming a major global player.
And now in our first look at the indicators this afternoon, $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,451 naira. In Botswana, it's 13.18. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 33, and in Zambia, it's 23 kwacha 10. The BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 rial 43 in Russia. It's 76 rubles 82. India 89 rupees 92. China it's 7 yuan 6, and South Africa $1 is trading at 17 rand 4 cents this afternoon. $1 is trading at 75 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $4,192 per ounce and platinum at $1,679 per ounce, while Brent crude oil is at $62.04 a barrel. And that's the business news. For any stories you'd like to share with us, please do send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or give us a call on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Buntle Hetbush.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, 23rd of July for Hard Talk discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and the whole country affected by gender-based violence. For all your favorite SABC radio stations, call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It is 12:42 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. As the world marks International Human Rights Day, questions are being raised as to the rights of children in conflict zones. Our children in African conflict zones face devastating impacts, including recruitment as child soldiers, severe violence, abduction, sexual abuse, displacement, lack of education, and health crises, with regions like the Sahel, the DRC, and Sudan particularly affected. And to speak to us further, we are joined on the line by Lulu Gaboo, CEO of Save the Children South Africa. Lulu, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lulu, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Now, for Save the Children, what does this day mean?
For Save the Children, my apologies because my voice is bad. I've got flu. For Save the Children, this particular day means we need to put an emphasis on the rights of children, more so because they are more vulnerable, and it's easy for governments and all other leadership to neglect children and focus on differences that they have as maybe countries. So this day is about emphasizing that every child has a right to safety. Every child has a right to not to be hungry, and every child has a right to be cared for. So that's basically what is important for us on this day.
Now, just looking at conflict areas, are human rights of children observed? It's a question that we're asking, but we've seen what the visuals and we've heard the stories that have come out from aid workers who are on the ground in different conflict zones on the African continent. But what actions need to be taken to ensure that the rights of children are observed?
According to Save the Children, when policymakers and decision makers sit in different platforms and forget that they are in leadership after having been groomed into the level that they're at, and they forget that there's a group of people that need to be groomed, one, by making sure that they can reach their full potential through exposure to education or exposure to safe environment so that they can grow up cognitively and mentally well. If that is not happening at a policy level, then we have a problem, and that is why maybe we're facing some of the challenges that we're facing right now.
And what message do you have to or for these leaders who similarly have forgotten where it all starts?
The biggest message people should understand that is every human being has a right to exist in a safe environment with dignity. Now, when decisions are made and you neglect the value of the most vulnerable, it means you're saying they can live without dignity, without being cared for. So, and yet, Africa and other countries have ratified on the Human Rights Convention. So you ratify and say you will do it, but you don't practice it. So which means we are always talking lip service, signing things, but we don't live up to them. So the message is that can we groom a society? And it starts at a policy level before it even gets to a family level.
Well, Lulu, thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update, and hope you recover speedily. And thank you for making time for us. We'll leave it there for today. That was Lulu Gaboo, CEO of Save the Children South Africa, joining us on the line. It is 12:46 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa.
Keep Africa in your hands. Connect to our website for all your news, sports, and cultural updates. channelafrica.co.za. Be inspired. Stay informed. Channel Africa, the beauty of life. Now available anytime, anywhere with our new app. Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Today on hashtag Africa Updates asks, as the world marks International Human Rights Day, what message do you want to give governments? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 406-9126. Hashtag Africa Update asks.
Conversations are happening, and Channel Africa is at the heart of them. We tell the African story with clarity, pride, and purpose, reaching audiences that matter to your brand. Partner with us and connect your business with listeners across borders in multiple languages and markets. For partnership opportunities, sponsorship, or sales, email us at partnership@channelafrica.co.za. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802. Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African perspective.
The World Health Organization says traditional medicine continues to play a major role in global healthcare systems and demand is rising. This comes as the agency prepares for the second WHO Global Summit on Traditional Medicine taking place on from the 17th to the 19th of December in New Delhi, India. At a media briefing on Tuesday, WHO experts outlined the organization's work to strengthen evidence, regulation and integration of traditional medicine into national health systems. Lebogang Mabange has more.
For billions of people across the world, traditional medicine is not an alternative, it is their first point of care. Dr. Shyama Kuruvila, Acting Director of the World Health Organization Global Traditional Medicine Center, says its use is widespread and deeply rooted.
About 90% of WHO member states report its use amongst 40 to 90% of their populations. Traditional medicine is often the closest or only care available for many people. And for many others, it's a preferred choice because it is personalized and holistic. It's bioculturally aligned and it supports overall well-being rather than only treating specific disease symptoms.
Dr. Kuruvila says countries have now committed to a long-term plan to advance traditional medicine through science, regulation and collaboration.
Earlier this year, all WHO member states adopted the WHO Global Traditional Medicine Strategy 2025 to 2034 that guides work on evidence, regulation, systems integration, and multi-stakeholder collaboration rooted in community engagement. Global demand is rising due to chronic diseases, mental health needs, stress management, and the search for holistic, personalized, meaningful care.
WHO's chief scientist, Dr. Sylvie Briand, says traditional, complementary and integrative medicine offers many solutions but also raises scientific challenges.
Millions of people around the world use some form of traditional, complementary and integrative medicine, TCIM. Why? Because when it comes to health, we all seek the best possible solution. TCIM offers a wide range of treatment and approaches applied in different circumstances. And this diversity is an asset. It represents countless potential solutions to health problems. Yet, it also poses a challenge for science.
As traditional medicine grows globally, WHO says strong regulation is essential to protect patients and ensure quality. Dr. Sang-Chol Kim, WHO unit head for standards, regulation and integration, explains the approach.
When we're talking about the traditional medicine that related with the regulation, it's a three pillars: traditional medicine product and traditional medicine practice and traditional medicine practitioner. So traditional medicine is so diverse in different countries, and different traditional systems of medicines are being recognized and practiced. So in order to harmonize and composing those different types of the regulation, particularly for traditional medicine products, we try to build that international standard, quality, and safety of the herbal medicine.
He says WHO is also developing tools to help countries strengthen oversight of herbal medicines.
We have WHO initiate developing international herbal pharmacopoeia. So I think this is one of the key initiatives. At the same time, in order to help member countries strengthen the regulatory mechanism for herbal medicine, we try to build international global benchmarking tool for assessing and helping member countries to improve regulatory mechanism of the herbal medicine.
The WHO Global Summit is expected to bring governments, researchers and traditional medicine practitioners together to discuss how to integrate centuries-old knowledge with modern science while ensuring safe, effective care for patients worldwide. Reporting for Channel Africa, I am Lebogang Mabange.
Well, Tebogo Kuleni of the Upside team is here. Good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm fantastic, Lulu. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Here's what's coming up on the Upside this afternoon. Not so long ago, I think it was on Monday, we were in conversation with one of the winners from Tech Found Her campaign, which was happening in Kenya, if I'm not mistaken. One of the winners, we got to chat with her. She developed technology using AI to combat disease and pests on crop, so to early detection of disease and pests amongst crop. And today we are chatting to another innovator from this very campaign. Her name is Margaret Wanjiku, who is leading the charge in smart pollination technology as she joins the top 5 Tech Found Her winners this year. We'll be getting into conversation about what that actually looks like. I've never heard of anyone investing in pollination and AI and technology being in that space. It's going to be an interesting conversation. And then later on, we head off to KwaZulu-Natal as they are poised to welcome over 1 million visitors this festive season, as the tourism spending is expected to inject 13 billion rand into the provincial economy. And we'll be exploring as well the cruise tourism in the area. And then we'll be joined in studio. What an honor it will be for us to be chatting with Proverb. He'll be joining us in studio as he explores how health touches every part of our lives in a reflective and practical new release book titled To Health With It.
Oh, wow. Okay, there's a lot to look forward to on the Upside today, so do stay tuned for that. That's Tebogo Kuleni and Mateko Musito taking on the Upside from the top of the hour. Well, on Africa Update, we continue, and there is a lot that is happening, and as you heard, it's been an interesting show, and with regards to the big stories, you can continue with us on all our social media platforms. We will have all of that lined up for you, and let us know your thoughts and your views on the stories that we have been covering today and other days. Well, we go to Ukraine now, where the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, says his country is not willing to cede territory to Russia as part of a U.S. proposal to end the conflict with Russia. The Ukrainian leader has been crisscrossing European capitals to shore up long-term support and coordinate a strategy ahead in an effort to blunt the U.S. plan that could include major territorial concessions to Russia by Kiev and Ukraine foregoing any future membership of NATO and reducing the size of its military, while some frozen Russian assets would go towards rebuilding Ukraine, among other measures. Now, reports suggest Ukraine is preparing to present a revised plan to the White House. Show Bryce Peace reports from New York.
Zelensky in London Monday for meetings with the leaders of the UK, France and Germany, followed by a stop in Brussels for engagements with the European Union and NATO. Tuesday at the Vatican for an audience with the Pope, then on to Rome to meet Italy's Prime Minister, while insisting that under Ukrainian law and morally, they cannot cede any territory to Russia.
Things which are very important for today, I think unity between Europe and Ukraine, and also between Europe, Ukraine and the United States. There are some things which we can't manage without Americans, things which we can't manage without Europe, and that's why we need to make some important decisions.
As some European leaders view elements of the US proposal with some skepticism, while calling it a decisive moment for the region. Listen to German Chancellor Friedrich Merz.
We are still and remain strongly behind Ukraine and giving support to your country, because we all know that this the destiny of this country is the destiny of Europe. So that's the reason why we are here, trying to figure out what we can do. And nobody should doubt on our support for Ukraine. And that's what we are firmly standing behind. And the outcome is open. I'm skeptical about some of the details which we are seeing in the documents coming from U.S. side, but we have to talk about that.
And as Europe punts the need for a just and lasting peace in Ukraine that includes robust security guarantees, an optimistic view from the United States, at least according to Keith Kellogg, the outgoing U.S. envoy on Ukraine.
I think we're at the last 10 meters of trying to end this conflict where it's at. I think we're really down to a couple of issues, and the issues that are one are on terrain, which is primarily Donetsk, which is the second Oblast. You have Luhansk, Donetsk, you call it Kherson, Zaporizhia and Kherson, and the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, which is currently is in cold storage right now, but that is a huge nuclear power plant. If we get those two issues settled, I think the rest of the things will work out fairly well.
The Kremlin welcomed the new U.S. national security strategy unveiled this week of flexible realism that warned that Europe faced civilizational erasure while seeking to establish strategic stability with Russia. Spokesperson Dmitry Peskov.
The current administration is fundamentally different from previous ones. And of course, President Trump is strong now, strong in terms of his domestic political position. This gives him the ability to adjust the concept in line with his vision.
And that report by Show Bryce Peace in New York. And that's how we wrap Africa Update today. It's been a great show. Continue with us on all our social media platforms. And let's do this again tomorrow. The Upside coming up.
Tune in and turn up the volume. This is Channel Africa.
It's gone 1 p.m. Central African time. A big thank you to Lulu Gaboo and team. Join her again tomorrow, same time, same place. It's now time for The Upside from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Central African time. But first, let's get the latest news.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Tebogo. A senior gender justice and international law fellow, Wendy Isaac, says the African continent is witnessing some of the worst humanitarian crises that the world has ever seen due to conflict. Today, the world is observing International Human Rights Day. It marks the anniversary of the UN's 1948 adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Isaac says the significance of International Human Rights Day should remind the African Union about its mandate and obligation to address wars and conflict on the continent.